What's up, guys? And so with the Nun 2, that is the recent entry in the Conjuring universe, has now released in theaters. We now have so many films in the Conjuring franchise, even starting from the Conjuring, even all the way up to the Nun 2, and even with the spin-off characters, and even with their films, and even with some that were stinkers, even ones that are not scary or that's not good at all. And that's what I'm going to do for you guys in this video, is give you guys my ranking of all the films in the Conjuring universe from worst to best, even from what we can expect, and even from my thoughts on why these are ranked as well. And so if you're new here, hey, don't forget, let's be sure to subscribe, click the bell, so on future videos like this. And so let's get into it. And now, starting way below at number 8 is the first Annabelle movie. And now, ever since her character was introduced in the first Conjuring movie, and when we saw the Warren's room full of demonology and witchcraft, and even with all that scary stuff, especially with Annabelle, the doll that was in that case. And even after that film, she went on to have her own spin-off film, especially with that plot surrounding a married couple, and even with a doll being possessed. And it turns out that movie was like really awful. Even with the plot of the film was totally bland, even with the married couple, and it brought no tenderness into that doll. And even so, I mean, like it was just like so boring. It was like so filler, and it did not feel scary at all. And next, at number 7 is Annabelle Comes Home. And now, even as we look at the first two Annabelle films before this one, but I feel like with this one, I think it's my least favorite in the trilogy. It's because even with this plot and the story, it's just surrounding a young Judy, and even having her babysitter and her friend, and even I thought the entire film, I thought that this disrespected the whole Conjuring franchise. As even with an unlikable character like Daniela, who does the most disrespectful thing by touching everything, just like she can do like what she wants to do. And even with the whole story that surrounding in this house, especially with touching everything and disrespecting everything, I feel like this is like the worst entry in the trilogy, especially for the Annabelle doll. Even with the Warrens that were in so like they were completely absent throughout the entire film. But even with not having the Warrens in this movie, it kind of felt out of place. Next, at number 6 is the Nun. And now I feel like when Valerie the Demon Nun was debuted in the Conjuring 2, and she went off to have her own spin-off film, and like she was definitely terrifying in the film. But when it came for the first Nun movie, I feel like that was such a disappointment, and especially with a Valerie that was totally wasted throughout the entire movie. And this one had predictable jump scares. It was outright boring, and even though with these characters and that were sometimes not interesting, but I did like Sister Irene, even with Maurice and Father Burke as well. But even thought the entire film, the plot just felt like uninteresting, especially for like the Abbey in Romania, and even with the entire plot that plays into it, it just totally felt rushed, especially for an hour and a half movie. It just felt uninteresting. And next, at number 5 is The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. And now, even with this film that has the absence of James Wan in the director chair, and had Michael Shevs to take over this entry in this universe, I feel like it was sort of meh. It just like I felt like not good. Even though I tried to take a different style and approach, even with this entire storyline, it just didn't feel that touch that we're used to seeing in this franchise. I feel like it tried to do something elsewhere, especially surrounding this like kid and this like a demonic possession that was inside the kid, and even as I thought the entire plot, it just felt not good. And next, at number 4 is the Nun 2, and this is the recent entry in the Conjuring Universe that is now in theaters. And I feel like this was an improvement from the first film. It has such an interesting plot, and even with the Sister Irene who was back like to an and then escape a church, and people get like killed, and even with a Valak's spirit who is believed to be still alive, and with Irene to step stop a valid once and for all, and it just sort of felt interesting. I like the initial characters, especially with Sophie and Maurice, and even with all the other characters as well. Plus, I love with Tessa Farmiga and Storm Reed's chemistry, and they make a great duo, and I just liked everything about it, and I thought it was an improvement. And next, at number 3 is Annabelle Creation. Now, I feel like this was a much better film than the first one, and it's my favorite in the trilogy. And we got more of an explanation on the doll and human possession, and this was like even more terrifying, and it brought more fear back into the Annabelle doll. And even with this plot, like starting Janice in this orphanage, a home for girls, and they say in the South, and even with the doll, and that was like a part of this hero's story. But and even with that David F. Sandberg, who really crushed it, especially with a genre like a demon horror that went on to direct the 2 Shazam films for DC. But I feel like what he was approaching here, it was definitely more scary, and even though with the Annabelle doll, that was even more scarier. And next, at number 2 is the Conjuring 2, and now this was the film where we got the debut of Violet the Demon Nun, and she was like the most terrifying horror characters that we ever seen any horror franchise. But I feel like with everyone that was terrified of her, including myself. But I feel like she had a true demonic presence, and even with this entire story and plot surrounding this family in London, sort of like a demonic presence in their home, and even with the Warrens at the stop his presence, but even with a ballad that was sort of centered in the film that later went on to have her own spin-off film, but especially with the sweet family moments that are in here, and I love James Wan's direction and what he wanted to adapt. But finally, coming at number 1 is the Conjuring. Now, this is where it all started for demon horror. It's especially with James Wan, who is the mastermind of when it comes to directing horror films like this. It was so scary and terrifying, even with his family that has a demonic presence in their house. And on top of that, this was surrounding the real case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and how they wanted to adapt it into a horror film, which would later go on to have its entire universe filled with all these stories and characters, and I just really like the way that this was pulled off, especially for a horror film like this. And even with the Warrens, and even with their evil stuff in that room with the demonology and witchcraft, and that stop his presence, and even with those family moments that we have here. But even this is like a great, and this was a great start to this horror universe. And yeah, so this is my ranking. Even as we look at the entire Conjuring universe as a whole, and even with the ones that end up being stinkers, even with the ones that had a good story, and even with some good jump scares, and having pretty predictable ones as well, but even having the ones that were stinkers. But even with this universe that will continue on, plus we have a 4th Conjuring movie and a series confirmed as well. Even so, I just enjoyed every entry, especially with the ones that are my least favorite. But yeah, I really enjoyed all these, and I can't wait for the rest of the future of this universe and so on and so forth as well. And so that is going to be the first video. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and what your thoughts on my ranking, and how would you rank all these films in the Conjuring universe based on the ones that you've seen. And let me know in the comments below. Give this video a like and subscribe, and turn on that notification bell for future videos, and also follow my social, which are linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.